So it's a bit early to use the grinder and do to this length what I did to this one, but what I can do is work out the area here. This is the seat base, so what I've got is a few bales of this wire, and what I'm thinking I'll do is have about 5 wraps, and they'll go around, and I'll tie them all together, and that'll be the top of the seat, and then everything else will tie into that. So you'll have the seat base made out of this stuff, then the springs, and then the wrap that goes around the top edge, and then obviously the padding and everything that goes over that. So I don't have any flat bar stock, real thin stuff, so I'm just going to use this up. I got this for free, so I'm going to utilize it, and it's got a rounded edge too, so I won't have to deburr all of that steel that if I made it up out of a bar stock, because it'll cut into the edge of the seat vinyl or leather, whatever I end up with. So I'll use this and I'll just tie wrap it all together, just build it up. I reckon 5 or 6 strands, probably 6 strands would be good, and I'll go from there. Alright, so I had 2 little bales that were sort of half used up or mostly used up, and I combined them. And what I did is I made one wrap just with one piece, one strand, tied it off so I had the actual shape, and made sure I measured these lengths, and then it's slightly shorter on the back side, so thinner than the front, so the front pairs out slightly, about 1 inch either side, and it comes forward just ever so slightly, so you get that sort of rake out from the seat. You've also got to remember that the seat top sort of goes up like that, so if you take it, sort of squares it off slightly. So I got about 7 wraps. I just used up what was there, and so it's just like that, and the ties may not stay. I'm probably just going to wrap this up with something, some cloth tape or whatever I've got laying around. I don't really need to wrap it up, but I may do. And it maintains a bit of flexibility too, because the seat, you don't want a big hard top with no flexibility, because people sit in it in different spots. And this is basically a lamination, and it'll have flex to and fro, and you'll be able to sit in it comfortably, and it should come back up. It will end up with a sag in that spot, but all of those buses have got them, I imagine, and that makes it look authentic. So that's what I've done there. 7, I think it's around 7 wraps, and mind you, it cost me nothing, so it's about 15 minutes buggerizing around. I had to straighten it all out first, obviously, and then just tied one bit and then worked forward to a corner, and then tied another bit, and then tied in the center, and then tied in there, and then tied there, and then tied there, and you know, it's just a process, and that's where that is. So that's one more piece. It's still too early to weld, so what I'll do is I'll probably work on this part now and do the same procedure. Anyway, bring you back. Alright, so I've got these 2 wrapped up now, 7 strands on each one, and they look nice and flexy, which is probably exactly what you're looking for. And I used up a fair few zip ties, but I don't really care, doesn't matter. Made my life a lot easier. So to do next, I'm still waiting for the time to get better for using the angle grinder, but not too sure what I'll do now. I'll probably take the dogs for a walk and come back. Okay, so I measured in the same distance up from the back side of the seat base as it is over this side, cut it straight through. Then I went up to this side and measured down this far to where the joggle is. So I measured that distance and I brought it over here. And I cut through, and then I dragged this down to the angle of that. Now I'm just going to weld there, and then I'll measure this distance and do it there and do the same. Bend it, and then I'll only have to cut this, whatever the extra will be, and add a piece that's exactly the same length as that one down there. And I'll bring you back. Okay, so I've done that part there and that part there. Now I'm up to trying to puzzle in all of these scrap bits that I've got. And the wires themselves are too wide for this, so and I want to keep this stainless steel. There's a lot of weight in it. And I want to keep this for the undercarriage. I'm going to make a framed box-in plate for the steering box, and this is quite strong stuff, and it bends rather than snaps. So if it gets hit by, you know, a rock or horse, something, so the idea, I reckon, is just to either work from one side and work my way across. So I've got a lot of these scrap bits, so I'm just going to cut the excess off, and then the excess off there, and then weld along this bar to this one. And I'll have to put a bend in it there, and that should meet up with this. I'll leave this section on the bottom where it kicks down. That'll be a weak point in the seat, so I'll leave the strength there, weld it right across, and then the curl will have strength because of the bend. So it'll only be a short section from the weld and a bend, then down to a very strong section, and then right across, and then once again there'll be another strong section there I'll keep, and I'll play with these so that the bar is at the base again. But that's what I'm thinking anyway. It's quick, it's cheap, and it's right in front of me, so I'm just going to keep going. Alright, I'll bring you back. Alright, so I've welded all of this in as much as I want to do for now. Just bend, weld, all that sort of stuff. Cut the two pieces off there. They will come in handy. They're over there. It's all fairly sturdy now, so I'm looking at it and it looks pretty ugly, so I will throw a coat of black paint over it. Just something to tidy it up slightly, nothing too serious. Anyway, most of the fabric will get wrapped around that edge anyway, so yeah, I'll definitely curl that all the way around and use hog rings around the base. That's how I'm going to do it. And anyway, I'll continue on and I'll bring you back. Okay, so that's it with a bit of paint on it. You can see that little dip down there. That's just the base structure, so it doesn't have to be too pretty. It's all going to be covered up. And then this one sits over the top, and it's like lifted like that, and then the springs are beneath it all, in between the two, and that strapping there is just a piece of steel cut with the throatless shears and then bent around and crimped on the ends, so that keeps it in shape. And I'll just continue on. So getting there. It's amazing what a little bit of cheap black paint will do. Anyway, I'll bring it back. Alright, I'm out and about looking for a couple of likely candidates. They look like they've been marinating out in the weather a little bit too long for me. But I'll keep looking. And I got some roof racks yesterday, so it won't take me long. Alright, well, I've been driving around. I picked myself up a chair. So, let's see what I can do with it. Alright, so I probably should explain what's going on. I drove around for a little bit today and was looking for some better quality chairs that people have put out on the side of the road, and this is going to give me everything I need for my seat. I actually went to the local fabric store and bought some vinyl remnants as well, so I've got brand new vinyl to cover the actual seat and the seat back, but the foam and the overlay for the foam and the springs that go in on the inside here for the backrest, I'll be getting from these, and then I'll just take these to the dump. But they're going to get a second life. This stuff is pretty good quality, so it won't get wasted, and I'll probably cut the vinyl off the back here and use that, incorporate that in some way, just to you know, give it a second life. So actually I think this is leather. There you go, this seat's leather, so I'll probably take a little bit more off of it. Yeah, so that's leather, well, at least the front of it is anyway. So some of this will get used for the seat, but I'll get to putting a new blade in this and hacking up what I need, putting it in a box or a bag, putting it to the side, and then I'll have plenty to work with when I get to the sewing machine. So I'll bring you back. Okay, time to regroup. I've got the chair off, and I've been getting at it with a sharp blade for about 15 minutes, and it was a bit of a score, this chair. That's a big pile of leather there, and most of it's fairly good. So this was an Australian made chair, it wasn't a cheap imported one. So the leather looks fairly good. Some of it's a bit how's it going, but I think I'll be able to use most of that. There is another one of these sitting on the side of the road where this one came from. I'm not certain I want to go and get it though. But anyway, I've got a big pile of foam, some more foam over there, a big pile of leather, and some of that material, the wadding, that goes over the seat, over the foam, and then under the leather or vinyl. So that's a good score in itself. And then the strapping, which is elasticized. So I might have to change gears here and do a slightly different style for the seat back and the seat front. If I'm going to use those, the system that's here is going to have to be a little different. I was hoping to find some springs in here. A lot of chairs have those, they look like that. They're like a spring that goes like that. There's about 5 of them generally. And they are actually the same ones that go on to the seat back. So as your back goes on it, it's sort of there and they spring back and forth. So I now don't have them. What to do? Not too sure. Got a couple of options.
I could probably use them, cut them into wide strips, about 3 squares wide or 4 squares wide, really clean it up so there's nothing hanging off the edge, and then lay them on an angle and then tie them in at the top and the bottom, and that'll give me a little bit of flex. Not too sure, still trying to work out what to do here, but progress. And that's a good score, that's a good score. That'd be probably $100 there worth of leather if I was to buy it, even though it's all in little bits. But it's amazing what you can do with stuff like that if you just sit there and look at it for a while and arrange things in patterns. So you've got a heap of long ones, so you line them all up, and you want to have some little square ones, and then you sort of move it around, and then you start to form a pattern. So that's pretty much what it did here. It's pretty much what you do with everything, you know, when you're trying to upcycle or recycle. So they'll definitely get used. I've got 5 big potato sacks coming from the local fruit market, and the idea is the springs, then the potato sacks, or hessian, or jute, whatever you want to call it. There's some other names that's used around the world, but, and then obviously the padding, and then that stuff. And by that time you've got a fair amount of evenness in it. So that's the plan so far. Still on the hunt for an old mattress. Need an old mattress, an old sprung mattress, because they've got a lot of those springs in it. So I've been lurking the local classifieds trying to find one that's for free this afternoon, but haven't had any luck. And it's too hot. It was too hot just now to drive this old car around too much. It gets a little warm, so it definitely needs a really good flush out and some new coolant. So I've got a feeling that someone borrows this car every now and again, and they took it too far, and I think it overheated and blew out all the water, and they've just filled it up with plain water, or put plain water in it. So anyway, probably have to get some coolant, and I'll put some detergent in the water and flush it out, and then set it all back up again. But for now I've got to grab a hammer and smash this up, put it in the back of the car, and go take it for a drive. I don't really want to hang around, so anyway, I'll bring you back. When man and crowbar meet chair. That's the aftermath. So I don't have to take it anywhere. Just a big pile of mess now. So firewood. Bring you back. Oh, I also forgot to mention I got these 2 padded seat backs. So there's a fair bit of wadding in there. And so I got it from both chairs that were there. An armrest and some other bits and pieces. So there's a fair amount of padding there. I'll definitely be alright. So I'll just clean all this up now and settle in for the afternoon, I think. Bring you back.